one of the most common words that the students go on to use now and then and every time, whether it is going to be students of one era or another era, is the word trend. They're obsessed with trend. They think about trend, they go on to drink about trend, they sleep trend, they go on to do everything associated with it. Now, the reason why is it that they are talking about trend is this is a word that has been seeded in their mind in no uncertain terms by everyone concerned, by their peer group, by the coaching institutes, by the daily wage coaches, and all of them. That's what they have done, and this is what they keep on revising themselves, keep on convincing themselves that there is something called as a trend, and that the UPSC has been given some type of instruction with respect to what to follow, what not to follow with respect to trend. So it is trend that is trend that guides them. It's trend that goes on to help them model their preparation, build a platform for the preparation. It is trend, trend, and trend. It is always going to be trend of sorts, always. Now, as a part of this navigation course, we are always going to be talking about that there is nothing called as a trend. What you think is trend is not a trend. It is essentially a reflection of a lot of things. But then what determines some of these type of reflections that you go on to see? It's not about that UPSC has given any type of instruction to the people what exactly defines a trend. They don't go on to say that is you have to follow the question along a trend. Now, when the student goes on to talk about the trend, it speaks about the insecure mindset of the candidates. It is because they are insecure, that's the reason why they're going to talk about a so-called trends of sorts. But as you can understand it, it is the mind of everyone in policy making and in governance. That is, as the time goes on to evolve, then people start thinking about a lot of things. They start thinking about a good number of aspects which go on to be associated with governance, which goes on to be associated with policy making. Now, it is this policy making, the examiner understands that you must go on to know what are the factors that determine the policy making. And this policy making, governance related issues, the thinking that is pervasive in the society is what actually reflects itself in the way the questions are going to be asked. And there are many of these aspects. One of them is going to be socio-economic changes. Now, the socio-economic changes taking place in the country determines the emerging insights, the type of insight. So, an examiner, a question setter goes on to test you whether you are abreast with the socio-economic changes taking place in the country or not. For example, you're going to understand that there is a rising wave of nationalism. Now, it's a rising phase of nationalism because a lot of things which the students should have known, which of course you should also have known, and which was never taught in your school, and of course this is something that you must go on to get itself revised. What are the things that you have not been taught in your school at all? So, some of those things which have completely been hidden by you, camouflaged and in a deceitful manner, in a deceiving manner about your history, about your past and about everything, now has started emerging. It has started outcropping itself right now. So there is a new phase of nationalism that is pervasive in the country. Now, anyone who goes into think that is going to be nationalism and nationalistic feeling, that has to be getting itself reflected in the questions. Now, questions sometime in the past, they may have talked about that is discuss whether India is a nation or not. Now it is going to be talking about how is it that perception determines nation building. That's what we are going to be talking about. That is on nationalism, it is going to be how is it that the perception determines nation building. And when we are going to be talking about perception and the role of perception and what all that determines perception. For example, language is related to perception, perception is related to language. In turn, both of them have determined what type of nation India will go on to be in the future. That is one form of a question. Now, this is a question that can be asked to you in political geography as far as geography is concerned. And of course, this is a question that is going to be very much evident to be asked, and that is very much likely to be asked, even if not in geography, it is always going to be even in general studies as well. Then pick up another aspect, that is going to be cultural federalism. Now we have adopted federalism, and that was political federalism. It was not exactly a forced federalism, but almost. When you're going to consider Article 249, Article 352, 356, you can go to consider to what extent India is a federal state. Now you understand it. Was there any need for such type of a political federalism in the country at all? Because India was not exactly a political unit. India was even when the British left India, what they did was that they thought that India is synonymous with Bahadur Shah Zafar. They thought that India is synonymous with the Mughal Empire, which was not so. Because in South India, there was a different empire. In northern part of the country, it was a different empire. The Mughal never controlled the whole of the country at all, and they themselves were humiliated by the Ahoms no less than 17 times. Now imagine, the British gave everything to Mughal despite the fact that they controlled only Delhi. So by and large, maybe that is they were controlling small portion of the northern part of the country, and that is where they should have been given. Rajasthan was having a different iconography. Vijayanagar was having a different iconography. Assam was going to be having a different iconography. Not to talk about Jammu and Kashmir, that was having a different type of an iconography. So it is these units that should have been taken for the purpose of building a federalism. If it is that was to be built up, that would have been cultural federalism, and a lot of problems that are going to be emerging right now and that keeps on raising its hand right now, that shouldn't have taken place at all. Had it been cultural federalism, that means cultural units joined together to adhere themselves to a nation called as Bharat, if not India. India has not been a correct word in this case at all. So that will going to determine the nature of the question, and that is not going to be a trend. When we say that is not going to be trend, it is going to be having a different connotation altogether. Then the second aspect that goes to determine the trend is that is reflects itself is the changing global realities and its reflection. When we are going to be talking about changing global realities, then we are talking about a lot of aspects. These aspects can go on to be, one of them can go on to be that Indian Ocean used to be an Indian lake, all in all. And when we say that it was an Indian lake, because India was at the mouth or at the tip of Indian Ocean, northern portion of it, and the whole of southern portion of Indian Ocean was almost like an Indian Ocean lake. So we are going to be concerned about how exactly India can go to secure Indian Ocean. Now that is going to be one part. It is going to be suggestive. It is going to be a policy part of it. Some time back, the same thing would have been asked when India was not going to be so powerful as it is right now in the international arena. Then this question would have been in the form of discuss the geopolitical advantage of Indian Ocean for India. This is how the question would have been. But now, when India is going to be flexing its muscles, it is forcing the country to change their policies towards India, and India is going to be one of these best known countries in the whole of the world, with the Indian Prime Minister known far, far and wide. And of course, in terms of global rating, there is no one who can go to match Prime Minister Modi in this case at all. So the question will be that is, how is it that India can go to secure Indian Ocean? Then another of this question can go on to be advantages. Advantages India has with vis-a-vis China in maritime domain. That is, if you can go to pick up both of them, India as well as in China, then how is it that India is in advantageous position? So you have to know South China Sea. You also have to know not only South China Sea, Indian Ocean. You have to know Malacca Strait. You have to know the choke points in this case. Is it going to be only one advantage? Now, maritime domain means we are talking about economic domain, we are going to be talking about military domain, we are talking about a strategic domain, we are going to be talking about blue water navy, we are going to be talking about a air power domain, we are going to be talking about a satellite domain. Now everything combines, everything combined goes on to determine to what extent and how significant is the maritime domain of India in this case. There is another part of it. Now there is going to be another changing global reality, and the global reality is that right now, the biggest aviation hub in the whole of the world is going to be Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well. Now, one of these reasons why the cricket matches have been held in this place is because of this advantage, because they are equidistant from a good number of places. Now, the moment Greater Noida, the Noida International Airport comes up, that is going to be one of the biggest aviation hubs, because that is going to see the convergence of a lot of activities in this case. Now, not only Noida, Nagpur, Kochi, that is going to be an aviation hub, and in future Itanagar, that is Arunachal Pradesh, that is going to become an aviation hub. India must go on to develop more and more aviation hub. Why? Because it conforms with the global realities, and the global reality in this case is, understand it, India will go on to become an aviation superpower. Once Tatas have taken control over Air India, they already have one airline, that is Vistara. They already have another one of them, that is SAS. So if it is going to be three of them, then it is not the main business of the Tatas. Tatas go on to be having a lot of other business. So what they will going to do is that with the type of policies that they can going to follow, they will going to destroy the world market, and the world market is actually terrified of this fact that Tata has taken over Air India, and in India, Indian aviation will go on to be rising, rollicking of sorts. Why? Because a greater and greater number of people will going to travel through aeroplanes. A smaller airport will be coming up. All the districts will going to be having their own airports in this case. Imagine the amount of a traffic India will be able to invite. So how is it that India can go on to become a part of a global aviation hub? India will go on to determine it. Also, another aspect, that is the direction of exports is governed by the new geopolitical realities. There are many geopolitical realities. For example, the United States is a close ally. Russia has always been a close ally. African countries are going to be, Latin American countries are. So, some time back, the same question would have been asked about. There is India has started moving into the whole of the world. Which are these areas and what are India's interests? Now we are going to be talking about only one component, that is the direction of exports is governed by new geopolitical realities in this case. Now that is confirming with the global realities all in all. Then picking up the global geopolitical advantages India going to be having it. Now India has a lot of geopolitical advantages right now vis-a-vis good number of countries. So one of these geopolitical advantages that India is going to be having it right now is going to be with respect to the Arctic Sea route. That is the advantages India has with respect to Arctic Sea route. This is a question that was asked some time back. That is, of course, going to be, it's recent also. To a large extent, it is recent, and there is reflective of the fact that that is the way the questions are going to be asked. No one has even thought about it, and still the question will be there. But more importantly, India's deep sea exploration more for economic gains rather than for flexing muscles. Now that means you are to bring about a comparison between China and India with respect to how is it that the muscles are going to be flexed in this case. So is it that China is using it for flexing muscles? You have to prove that part. Answer is yes. South China Sea being an advantage in this case. Malacca Strait can go to be advantage. The type of prank that we played with Thailand with respect to Kra Canal has been another example in this case. So it was for military purpose. That is how Chinese want to control it. India is doing it for economic gains. Now you have to cite some evidences in this case. Now imagine only one variable has to be taken into account in this case when it is going to be about deep sea exploration. So deep sea exploration, that is the type of technology is and India is exploring deep sea not for the purpose of parking its submarines in that place, but for the purpose of allowing itself to be known throughout the whole of the country in this region. That is going to be far more significant, and of course not country, it is going to be the whole of the world. Pick up another part of it. India's reach in Africa will be aided by soft power and essential for meeting India's future requirement. Now the catchword in this case is going to be soft power. Now soft power basically means that is in this case we are talking about, that is, to what extent India can go on to be goody-goody with respect to that of Africa. And goody-goody means, can you imagine, during the COVID times, what India did was, India aided almost all the countries with vaccination, almost all of these countries. So, aeroplane after aeroplane was landing in Mali, in Mauritania, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in Somalia, and they were taking medicines of India. That is soft power. So India's reach in Africa will be aided by soft power. It is soft power that allows a lot of trust to be built up towards India in this case. Now, this amount of a trust that has been built up, it is different from hard power, because hard power abovely assumes that you are going to be stronger and you can go on to subjugate the country as well. India is not exactly interested in subjugating it. India is mostly interested in having its presence felt in this region, and that is going to be the future of India. Now, that is going to be that another part of it, geopolitical advantages that India has started gaining of late and in the whole of the world, right, as well. There are other aspects which are going to be pervasive, and one of them is going to be, in this case, is going to be associated with something like established notions, some of these type of stereotypes. That is what is going to be significant here. Now, when we are going to be talking about established notions in this case, we are essentially concerned about a lot of things. First is take the example of Green Revolution. One of these, that is going to be Green Revolution. Now, when we are going to be talking about Green Revolution, Green Revolution was a stereotype, and we are going to be talking about and its name along with its ethos. Is it that the revolution is still green? Now, green is green corridor, green is a green highway, green is going to be not only green livestock. So anything can go to be green if it is going to be connected with its ethos of a sort, and that is what is going to be significant. So that is breaking the stereotype in this case. Green Revolution has not been green, and it is now established notion. What Green Revolution did was that it was planted deliberately in India to wipe up its biodiversity. Of course, it was a short-term gain of increasing the food production, but at the cost of the health of the people. So the health of the people had been so greatly affected that almost 60% of the population from Bhatinda to Bhagalpur has been affected by cancer right now. And it is this part that has been the not a short-term but a long-term aim, because the way agriculture was carried out in this case. Moreover, you go on to pick up traditional agriculture and the changes that it will go on to spell. So, what are the type of changes that are going to be there in the established notions of traditional agriculture? So, is it that traditional agriculture is going to be traditional, and will it going to spell sustainability, efficiency and development? That is a modern outlook. And if you start taking a look at it, it's a small amount of a change in the understanding of it. Traditional agriculture has been something that has been very, very, very good of sorts. So, traditional agriculture and changes that has taken place, that is what is spelling sustainability, efficiency, development and a lot of components. Now, that is established notion. Is it that traditional agriculture is good? Of course. Is it that Green Revolution is going to be good? Of course. Both of them have their own merits and demerits, but that is the way that the question is going to be twisted in this case, because everyone is going to be talking about a sustainable agriculture. Everyone is talking about efficiency, not productivity. Everyone is talking about development, not the growth of agriculture. Now, that is what is going to be playing in the minds of the examiner. So, even Green Revolution as well, is it that Green Revolution is ethical? The concept is, and the notion is, that it's not at all ethical at all. It's not at all ethical. And because it is not ethical, consequently, it goes on to be having a lot of issues, lot of problems in this case also. Then pick up emergence of new difficulties in this case. Some of these new difficulties that are coming up, and that is going to be determining new difficulties in the sense of a lot of things. For example, a new difficulties that have come up is that is, there are different regions which are specializing in different things. For example, there is no way that one can go on to grow rice as well in Punjab as someone can go to grow it in Bihar. Now, that is going to be one of these new type of a difficulty. It's a newer type of a difficulty that we have been encountering. Now, a new type of difficulty that some of these regions in India are going to be best known for some activities and some actions. And because they are going to be best known for some activities and some actions, they must be taken into account. And what can be these factors? These factors can be associated with the movement of the people. People have started moving a lot. Now, that is creating a difficulty. So, passenger and commodity flows, both of them. Commodity flow, that means the flow of the goods. Passenger, that means the movement of the people, the migration of the people, maybe labor migration. Now, that is a new difficulty that has come up. And it is this new difficulty that will go on to get reflected in the type of questions. Not exactly that the UPSC will go on to give a command. See, this is how that you going to ask a question. And then coming out of it is going to be spatial integration. That is it that because some regions going to be having some type of an advantage with respect to certain type of products. Some of them have an advantage with respect to, think of a advantage with respect to some of these type of actions, activities, production, agroclimatic advantages. So is it not that the whole of the country must be integrated? So spatial integration will go on to become, will be playing on the mind. A spatial integration means integration in a space. We are going to be talking about integration in a space. How is it that different type of components will go on to get themselves integrated in a space? That is, Bihar getting integrated with Northeast getting integrated with the whole of western part of the country, and so on. That's a new difficulty. So every time a new difficulty comes, the examiner tends to ask a question whether the student is able to find a solution to these things or not. So they will go to ask, how is it that what do you want to suggest with respect to spatial integration? So if you're going to suggest something, that's going to be good. Of course, the new difficulty is going to be tests of people post-corona. That is, the tests have changed. A good number of people have tests in terms of psychological tests, perceptual tests, in food habits, in the lifestyle, in the living of the people. That has shown certain type of a change. And because it has shown some change, a good number of people have started following what we're going to be calling it is minimalistic living. Now, it is this minimalistic living that is going to be very, very significant, very, very important as well. And that is going to be a significant part. And then you're going to be talking about governance related issues as well. Now, governance related issue is sometime back the trains used to originate taking coal from one place, let's say from Bihar, from Jharkhand, and they used to take months to come to Delhi. Now we are going to be talking about Gati Shakti. It's fast. How fast is it that the movement can go to take place? And Gati Shakti is going to be governance related issue. So roads are being built, highways are being built, railways, freight corridors are being built, water bodies will be built, and that is associated with giving speed to movement, because we live in the age of speed. In this age, only those things will go on to become successful which have speed, not only those things which are going to be strong. So that is why Gati Shakti and all of those aspects will be related to how is it that speed will go on to determine the movement, development, actions, activities, everything of sorts. Speed, to what extent is it that speed will be determining these aspects, and that is going to be governance related. So any examiner in this case, let's say question setter, what they will going to think of it is, that is let's say a prime minister use the word Gati Shakti. So immediately they will going to click their mind, that is Gati Shakti, and how is it that it can be completely correlated. It is again not associated with anything called as a trend that the students going to perceive, that questions will be asked from this section, question will not be asked from that section. That is never ever going to be playing in the minds of the people at all. Then there are going to be certain type of psychic changes that are going to be taking place, and we are going to be talking about the psychic changes means and the new perception problems. Psychic changes, that means what exactly is the type of a change that is taking place. For example, a good number of people can go to do a lot of work from their houses, from their residential areas. That is part of gig economy. A good number of people will go on to create their own brand as well. That is going to be part of their economy as well. A good number of people will go on to work work in a complete leisure. They will go to work at 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. Some of them will go to work late night, while maybe throughout the whole of the day they will keep on sleeping. That is the type of enjoyment that they want to experience. That is gig economy. So how is it that will it going to determine anything? For example, it will go to determine. Most of the people will start living in the suburban areas, and when they start living in the suburban areas, that is because that is the place they can go on to move in shorts, they can go on to wear a t-shirt, they can go on to be completely at ease. Maybe for 2 days they do not go to work at all, but in third day they will go to make up for all the lost hours of the 2 days also. Then other is going to be experiential economy, not only gig economy, experiential economy, that is how much amount of experience that one can go on to gain or give it to people. And when you are going to be talking about experience and experiential economy, now understand that part. Experiential economy means that you go on to go to a coffee shop, and once you are in the coffee shop, it's not the taste of coffee that will going to determine certain things. What will going to determine is not only the taste but the ambience. And in that ambience, keep on drinking coffee, keep on thinking something here, and you're going to find nice people around you as well, surrounding you as well. And when you have such type of people surrounding you, you're going to get an idea. And that is what you may go on to meet some people. You may build some type of association. You go on to build some social capital. Maybe that you're going to meet a girl or a boy that can go on to change your life also. Now, that is experiential economy. If you're going to go to any institute and you're going to have a fabulous experience of sorts in this region for 1.5 years of the entire of the course period, now that is going to be experiential economy in this case. So that is going to be significant. And that will go on to form a part of the question. For example, the retail location. Now, the retail location, it can be asked in the form, and where exactly is it that it is going to be asked here? That is, the locations of the shops right now mostly go on to be in malls. It is going to be a completely different type of a shopping experience. But unless India restores the previous form of experiential economy, where you used to go to a small shop and the shopkeeper happened to know you. He used to know your entire family, and he was very pally with you. He was very affectionate towards you as well. Now, that was experiential economy. You don't going to be getting the such type of experience in the shopping mall as well. And that has been one of the reasons, and that is one of the reflections of the collapse of the MSMEs. That is medium and small enterprises also in this case. So that will go on to be in the form of how is it that urban areas are reshaping itself because of an experiential economy, because of an emerging experiential economy, or because of an experiential economy that will going to emerge in the future. Then some of the discovery of new mistakes. We have started getting some of these new mistakes as well for ourselves. And when we are going to be talking about new mistakes, what we are going to be concerned with is new mistakes have been with respect to our history. Now, everyone going to know that in last 70 years, the history has been completely distorted to an extent that everything that you have known so far has been a complete rubbish. So now it is almost a proven fact that Lal Killa was not built by Mughals, Taj Mahal was not built by Mughals, or for that matter, Qutub Minar was also not built by Mughals, and so on and so forth. It's only that it needs to be ratified by the group of academicians, and once it has been ratified, it will go to, of course, get entrenched completely in this case. That has been one aspect of history. Identity and how it is going to shape the movement of the people. Now, when we are going to be talking about identity, then we are going to be talking about people are asserting their identity. So now people are going to be asserting that they are Sanatani, they are Hindu. Now, it is one of those type of cultures, and not only religion, it's dharma as well, it's religion as well, it's a way of life as well, it's a philosophy as well. So this is what exactly is shaping up the philosophy of the people. This is what is shaping up the lifestyle, and also a lot of other things as well. For example, minimalistic living is going to be determined by that. That is, a good number of movement of people will go to take place towards their tourist centers. That is, religious tourist centers will be shaped by this new identity. A good number of people will go on to preserve their environment, plant good number of trees, consider trees as their gods, is because of this new type of movement in terms of identity. So the question in this case will go on to be asked about to what extent identities, history has shaped up or is going to shape up the new afforestation schemes in the country. Do you think that will going to shape up? So examiner is concerned about the questions that he is going to be concerned about your viewpoints in this case. Of course, residential segregation and planning in new cities. Why is it that the people going to segregate themselves? Now, some time back, people used to be segregating themselves based on certain things called as a very ugly word, that was caste. So now everyone has started understanding that the word caste was inserted by the British essentially for the purpose of dividing the Hindu society, and that was the only way by way of which they could have ruled the whole of the country without too much amount of force as well. They considered the advantage of India into its weapon in this form, because that was division of labor. That was how it was interpreted in this case. So is it that such type of residential segregation or a new type of residential segregation is going to be helping the planning of the cities? The answer in this case is that, well, it can. But the new type of residential segregation is going to be completely different. People who are looking for serene atmosphere, people who are looking for pollution-free, people who are looking for a different type of a lifestyle also in this case. Discovery of new mistakes has been, of course, in the form of one of the newspapers as well. And you must have known this part. There is a Hindu has been bought by the Chinese. You will not going to find any newspaper giving full-page advertisement of the Chinese other than Hindu. Hindu is completely pro-China, and the government is mindful of this factor. Now, this will go on to help again question setting largely because a good number of topics that are going to be presented in Hindu and which are very, very biased, they will not be asked at all. Despite the fact that the students may go on to think and mind these words. Hindu has a lot of stake in its entire running and even investment by the Chinese. And the Chinese aim is to create a such type of a committed bureaucracy which will go on to question the policies of the government. And when a bureaucrat starts questioning the policies of the government, then you know there are certain things that are actually wrong in this case. And that's what we have to be mindful of. Now, that will go on to determine the type of a question that can go on to be possibly asked in this case. Sometime back, maybe in 2 or 3 years of time, we'll go on to see that is there will be a certain decrease in the type of question that are going to be asked from Hindu, because throughout the whole of the world, right now it is known that is New York Times have been sold to the Chinese, Washington Post have been sold to the Chinese, Telegraph has been sold to the Chinese, Hindu has been sold to the Chinese, and despite all the merits it can go on to have with respect to the names. Well, there are other aspects that go on to determine a lot of aspects, the type of question that can be possibly asked, and one of them is to understand the capabilities of the candidates, and we are going to be talking about these type of capabilities. So, the examiner, the question setter will try to give a question which will go on to help him know whether you are able to design your thinking, whether you are a critical thinker or not, whether you are a lateral thinker or not. So that is how it is going to be. So if you are not able to look for a solution here and there, then that means your aspects with respect to lateral thinking is completely lacking in this case. And because it is going to be lacking, consequently, and I say it because it's going to be lacking, you may not be fit for civil services at all. So that is going to be one of them. Design thinking is going to be significant because only in this condition that you will be in a position to understand and know. I repeat it, that is, you can go to understand and know two things. Whether you can go for a reverse planning in this case or not. If you are not capable for reverse planning, you are bound to make mistakes. You will never go into plan where you can go on to reach to a desired destination the way that you have to reach in this case. That is going to be another aspect associated with it. Moreover, it is going to be most of the examiners have started understanding that the regional students, particularly let's say Hindi students, are capable of putting some ingenious suggestions with respect to a lot of things. And when we say that they are capable of putting some ingenious suggestions, it essentially means that they are actually rooted to the ground, and because they are going to be rooted to the ground, they will actually give a suggestion that is going to be very, very practical, that is very much adoptable, and so on and so forth. Now, that is what the examiners will going to toss. This is what is going to be happening in the examination as well. That is, the questions will be asked, that is, the rural areas problem can be solved in such a manner discussed. Now, you are going to think that this is not been in the text at all. This has never been talked about as well. This is not any book. Who now comes this book? Whether you are capable to generate, whether you are able to or capable to generate some solutions, that is what matters most. The examiners too, that is, examiners are also going to be different right now. Now, these examiners may not going to know the answer, possibly. That is going to be asking question is the easiest thing in the whole of the world to do. Not all the examiners know it, but how is it that they're going to learn it? Now, when this question has been put, they may not be given some model answer, and they'll be given a complete free hand. Look for a novelty and look for innovations in the way the answers are going to be written. And when one answer is given, one suggestion, ingenious suggestion, another one, very good suggestion. The third one, it is traditional. So, of course, you're not fit for candidature at all. Now, this is the way the trend is determined. That is, examiners themselves want to know whether you are able to give some of these things or not, or whether you are able to upgrade yourself with respect to some of more critical locational thinking also for you. Now, having said that, a good number of examiners will themselves will not come to know. A good number of sessions may be coming from you, despite the fact that you also don't know there is going to be engineer suggestion. And the last thing that can be said is that there is no way that the coaching institutes go on to know. They absolutely don't have any clue. And why they can't go on to be having a clue? Because these coaching institutes, they only go on to talk at a very superficial level, very superficial. They are not capable enough to help you, guide you, mentor you to become civil servants. And why? Because the moment they're going to raise their level, of course, you also have to know that. And to raise their level, they will have to study a lot, they will have to introspect a lot, they will have to have ingenious methods of thinking as well. Of course, if they start having it, then a good number of students will not going to go to them at all. Coaching institutes absolutely don't have any clue at all as to how is it that the questions are going to be asked and how is it that they can be answered as well in this case. So when we are going to be talking about the trend of the question, we are effectively talking about the type of changes that are taking place in the country in the form of the psyche of the candidates, socio-economic changes, technological changes, geopolitical realities. It is all of those things that actually going to determine that this is the way the questions are going to be asked, and that is what is a trend. If you are following the reality, if you are following whatever that has been happening in the whole of the world and in India, you don't require to go for a trend at all. You will be able to answer these questions definitely. And that is the biggest clue. That is the general clue. That's the only clue. And that is also the clue.
To have more such discussions and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notifications on our upcoming videos.